behind the green curtain.
He couldn't hear us, so that was the glitch. Hopefully that was the only glitch.
Your show will go
But
live in 5
everybody else
seconds.
can,
4,
so we're good to go.
3, 2, 1.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is a little after 5 o'clock Pacific time, and we're going to jump right on into a cup of Joe. For any of you who are listening for your first time, this is a podcast brought to you by the Human Solution International. And my name is Joe Grumbine, CEO of the Human Solution International. And today we have Craig Cesal, who is a member of the Human Solutions Advisory Board and lifetime Hardway member, as we call it. And just a good friend, a man who's been helping us fight for human rights and making some lasting reform in the system that is severely broken. And so Craig has become our co-host, and he's here every week and shares his insight and thoughts. And today we have a couple of special guests, but right now we have Candis Dyer. Candis is a board member of the Human Solution International. She's also a chapter coordinator from the Texas chapter of the Human Solution International. And she's been helping with so many projects. She's involved with the Walk for Change and our prison reentry program and just about everything else that I can think of that has to do with making positive change in the world. This is a podcast, but you can call in. And if you'd like to do that, the number behind me is right, but I'll read it off to you. It's 563-999-3052. And if you have a good, clean signal, you can listen to the show this way, or you can call in with telling us a story, a joke, a comment. You can disagree with anything I have to say, or you can't disagree with Craig though. He's got full immunity. You can disagree with me. I'm fair game. Candace, I've never disagreed with her yet, so I don't know if that's even possible. We'll see what happens.
I don't think anybody else will either.
I don't see that happening. But here's a kicker. If you want to just call in to listen to Frog Woman, we have Becca Nichols doing screening, and she doesn't have a voice, but she does have a frog's ribbit, and it's kind of cool. So you might want to just call in just to hear that. But anyhow, However you choose to do it, we've got lots to talk about, and this show goes on from 5 to 6 p.m. So let's jump right on into it. So today we have Candis joining us, and Candis is she's involved in so many ways. She has a son that is incarcerated right now because of cannabis charges, and she's been involved with activism for years, partly at least as a result of that or because of that. But she's been running an organization that was involved in doing a lot of walks and marches, and she did the final march for that organization this last weekend, and I want to kind of hear about that. But we got some big growth coming out of the Texas chapter and lots of exciting things. So we really want to just get a big update on all things Texas. Take it away, Candis.
Awesome. Yes, we had a great walk at Raising Cane's in Arlington. We were out there from, I believe, about 2 to 4:30. And well, we personally, Dan and them were out till about 6, I think. And Dan and Janet showed up. We love them. They're amazing. They're our Arlington organizers for COCW. They are actually moving to Colorado. So we wanted to have one last walk since they're leaving to Colorado, and I'm taking over the Texas chapter of the Human Solution. And sad to say, left COCW, but I still support them 100%. And so we wanted to have one more big walk for saying goodbye. And it went great. We had a great time. A lot of people came and talked to us, and people wanted to take pictures, of course, and lots of honks. Man, we love Arlington. They before we even get a sign out, they're honking. It's crazy.
That's good. That's great. You know, a lot of times it's hard in California. People don't pay attention to anything. You know, I don't know how many times we've organized rallies, and you got 20, 30 people out there with signs before anybody even notices you, and it's everybody's so busy staring at their phones, and they're just apathetic. But once you get them going, it's humans are humans wherever you go. But it's good to see that, you're in a community where people are paying attention, and at very least that. So your Texas chapter, you guys have been around for about a year now, a little more than a year.
Yep. About a year and a half.
Year and a half. Yeah, it's been a minute. Time goes by so fast. I feel like I've been working with you forever, and I forget I've been doing this for several lifetimes, I think. But
Definitely.
That being said, it's exciting because I can remember years past trying to get a chapter going in Texas, and we'd have a case pop up and somebody that was interested, and then another case pop up over there. But Texas is a gigantic state. I mean, Texas is bigger than half the countries in Europe, and no joke. I mean, not only the actual physical size, but the economy and the population, everything. I mean, it's just everybody knows Texas is big, right? Everything about it. And but man, it took forever to get that first chapter to actually get chartered. But I'm really excited because you've got some great people. Most chapters, to be honest, have one or two strong people in it, and if they're good, usually there's a case surrounding a chapter that unites the people, or some specific reason, something that's happening in locally that causes people to want to get together and unite. Maybe it's a bill a referendum, an ordinance, or something that's looking to get passed or not passed, or something's happening. But short of that, the big cause is just ending cannabis prohibition, and people don't necessarily realize that, they think, oh, we just got to pass this law, legalize it. And they think that that's the answer. But the truth is, something can be legal and illegal at the same time, because it might be legal to do something, like if you go out and spend $40,000 on a license application and go jump through all the governmental hoops and do the background checks and have all the right things in place, you might be legal to grow some plants or to have a little store, make some products or whatever. But you might be the next door neighbor and not have all those resources, and you might be illegal doing the very same thing. So that's part of the issue that a lot of people don't understand, I think. Some do, but bottom line is it's not going to be over until it's just not a crime anymore.
Right.
And we have another guest coming online that we're going to be talking about his case when he gets up, but he's in a legal state. Washington State's had medical for, geez, almost as long as California, and they've had recreational for several years. And this guy gets busted for a handful of plants by today's standards, and he's facing felony charges. He's had his house raided. He's had, his life flipped upside down. And, even if he wins, he's got the trauma of going through all of this. And anybody who's been through it, I've been through it more than once, it's brutal. It's dehumanizing. You ever watch the news and you see other countries when they, the government's stomping on people and people trying to protest, and they're shooting tear gas at them and shooting live rounds and kill, look at Myanmar right now, what's going on, just crazy stuff. And we think to ourselves, how barbaric, right? How draconian, how horrible. And yet in our same backyard, we're doing the same thing. Those jackboots are the same jackboots stepping on your neck. And those machine guns are the same machine guns. And the tear gas is the same tear gas. And the actions that are being used against are the same things, basic humans choosing to do something that doesn't hurt anybody else, or choosing to have a voice about something and it being unacceptable in a free society, or what's supposed to be a free society. So that's the key to this whole thing, is getting people to understand that and to care about it. And, so you're in a situation now where you got some powerhouse advocates. You got some people that have a voice. You've got a podcast, and some of your team are out there broadcasting and involved in the advocate activist world for a long time.
Can I shout them out really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm leading up to. You're here. There's a softball.
Definitely. Farrah Hunter, man, she's with KM420 Radio, and she is joining. I guess you can say this is the board that's being created of THSI Texas chapter. And then we have Jason, my husband, of course.
Right
And
on.
we have Becca, because we all love Becca.
Everybody
and then
loves
we have Brandy Martinez is joining us.
Nice.
And we have Rena McCain. So
Awesome.
they're with KM420 Radio, and we love all of them. They're great, strong people, and I think they're really going to get a lot done. And I'm very proud of all of them.
Well, what's really cool is for the last, I don't know, at least 6 or 7 years, one of the biggest things I've been working towards is trying to unite groups in a common goal. And, when we met you and you were doing COCW, we were working to build the Walk for Change, and we figured, well, that's the perfect solution, because it was not a group itself. It is a collaboration effort made by a bunch of different groups. And so it's more of a coalition, a purpose, a specific series of events united by this group. But my hope was always that, we'd start working together and find that we like each other, and find that we like the work we're doing more than anything. And that we decide, hey, we're better helping each other than doing our own thing by ourselves without helping each other. And little by little, that's happening. So first you come along, and I went to my team. I says, can we keep her? And everybody said yes. And you decided you wanted to stay. So this is wonderful. And then you're in turn doing the same thing with folks you've been working with. And so, we're sort of creating a little bit of a vortex of activists, of people that have so much in common. And, we're separated by physical distance, but here we are. We're just like we're in the same room. So super
Definitely.
excited that you got this going on. And it looks like coming up Friday, we're going to be having our first kind of organizing meeting, and I'm just really, really excited. So without really getting too deep into all the things you guys are thinking about doing or not, most importantly, what area are you guys really dealing with? The whole state or regional, or what's your plan?
Farah and I are in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and Rena McCain is in Houston.
Cool.
So, and Brandy Martinez is in the Rio Grande Valley area.
Nice.
So we've got a pretty good little
A good
spread.
chunk. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
So far, and hopefully more. If y'all are interested in, and you're in Texas and you want to help out, hit me up. Definitely.
Absolutely. And you know, being that it's Texas and all, I'm sure there's going to be some events put together, and hell, you throw a barbecue, I'm liable to come down there and help you out.
Might do that.
Maybe we'll grab Craig and bring him down too. I'm sure Craig would do a nice Texas barbecue, and we'd all do it together.
Well, if I could do it, I definitely will be there.
Well, soon enough, soon enough. That's I got big plans for you. Anyways, so that's fantastic. All right. Well, most importantly, I guess, out of all of this, if somebody does want to get involved in Texas on any level, what would they do to get a hold of you?
Well, we just started the Human Solution International Texas chapter on Facebook, so you can look that up. I've got a YouTube channel now up, Canna Corner, and then the Candis Dyer page on Facebook is the Canna Corner page. And then we've got Instagram, THSITXCH, which is the initials for the Human Solution Texas chapter.
There you go. At first, I was like trying to figure that one out. It was like, and then I'm like, oh, I got it. It works. It
was too long to do.
Yeah, no, totally works. Totally works. So excellent. You know, you're more than welcome to stick around for the show, or if you've got to bounce, you can. But I'm just really grateful that you're able to join us today. We're supposed to have.
I'll stick around and hang out with y'all. I ain't got nothing else to do.
Wonderful. So we're supposed to have Robin Anderson, the guy that called in last week. He's supposed to be joining us on the Zoom today, and I'm going to hold off on announcing our announcement until he gets here, because we got a really kind of a big announcement, at least for us.
Yes.
It's a huge announcement for us, but I want to wait since it involves him. I don't want to just puke it up. So Craig, what's been going on this week? We haven't talked much. I know we got a big plan of shooting a video. Have we gotten any closer to setting a date to do that for the?
No, I haven't. I have to coordinate a little bit more with Becca and that, but I'm ready to get together. I talk to those people regularly. Today I had a new experience.
All right.
I'm here outside of Chicago, and unlike Texas, we have recreational marijuana here. And I got an invitation to visit a local cannabis dispensary. But obviously, I'm on federal supervised release.
Right.
I can't do anything, you know, really close, and I can't, you know, buy any cannabis or anything like that.
Right.
But I went there and met with the manager and met with a bunch of the employees, and just got to throw out a bunch of my questions about how the cannabis industry, how the cannabis store is working.
Yeah.
And the one thing I found is all the employees were very supportive, that they were into what they were doing.
Yeah.
They, you know, they very much, they weren't there just to get their paycheck. They were really into the future and the medicinal value of cannabis. It was really, really an enlightening experience for me.
Well, you know, if there's a bright side to this process of, you know, quasi legalization, it's the fact that this is truly a dream job for a lot of people. You know, being in any aspect of the cannabis industry, there's, you know, you figure people have been, you know, since the 30s participating in an outlaw fashion, all of these things, and they liked it enough to do it anyways, right? So you got people growing and making products and distributing and processing and doing all the things that they're doing, not getting paid for it, but actually risking prison and even worse. But they wanted to do it so much they were willing to take that chance. So imagine that same act that you are willing to risk your very freedom and your property and your well-being, and all of a sudden somebody come along and say, let me pay you to do that. So for a lot of these guys, and especially, youngsters that frankly have always grown up sort of in a world where it was sort of, at least on some level in reach of being legal. Like, when I first started being involved with this plant, there was no talk of any legaling, of any kind. I mean, there was initiatives that were being circulated by the normal people or the high times people. There was always something that they were trying. I think it was called the CMA, the California Marijuana Initiative, back in the 70s. I remember people gathering signatures at the fairgrounds, when I was, 10 years old, 11, 12, 13 years old. And I can remember going, interesting, but nothing came of it. Nothing came of it until 1996 in California. And that was the first state, besides, I think Alaska had something going on at one point, but the first state that really actually granted some kind of legitimate access on a medicinal level. That was 1996. That was another 20 some years later before there was even any shred of it. Well, I was dealing with it, entirely illegally during that period of time, and never even considered that it might be, not a crime. And so, you think about that and you go from that to, oh, well, I'm getting a paycheck from a company that does that very same thing. You got to think these guys got to be really, really excited about it. So what did they think about the fact that you were recently not incarcerated?
Actually, I was surprised. Most of them knew my story from
Oh,
coverage this month in High Times and some in the local media here. But the fun part, like you said, the assistant manager there had served time in prison for marijuana.
okay.
So, this was his dream.
Nice.
Now, back in the 70s, I lived not too far from the Rainbow Farm
Yeah,
in Cassopolis, Michigan.
right.
So that every year was the Great American Smoke Out. And I remember people in the 70s making their, annual trek there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's been historical protests. I think the hash bash in Michigan has gone on for a long time. They did the same kind of a thing every year, and there's been sort of a movement for a long time where a lot of people were willing to get together and make a statement. But this is a whole nother level of participation. It's kind of interesting to watch this. And then you're going through, driving down the roads, and you see billboards for this delivery service or that dispensary or this this vape cartridge or whatever. It's such a different dynamic than it ever once was.
It is. And like I say, that all the employees were really, just stoked about what they were doing. I mean, they obviously look forward to going to work.
Well,
But the other thing that also surprised me
what's
is I
up?
did come to learn that many of them were still buying their marijuana off the street because it was about a third of the price of the marijuana in the store they actually work for.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
At best, they saved the bag from the store to put it in. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, yeah, and that's the kind of I don't know. There's a big joke element to it all, because in every single state, in Colorado, there's bootleg weed. In California, there's bootleg weed. In Washington, Oregon, everywhere, there's bootleg weed. Why? Because you can get it cheaper. And when you talk about it, and the thing that's kind of funny is, when they pass these laws, they talk about, we got to regulate this, we got to make it safe, because they're spraying gasoline on these plants or whatever. They make it to where it's the illegal weed is just fraught with every kind of pesticide and nastiness, and it's mold, and it's going to kill you just by smoking it. But the truth is, yeah, that's entirely possible. I don't know if you remember the days when they were spraying paraquat over Mexico, but I do, and that should make your lungs bleed. And you get the heads up, hey, don't go near that guy. That guy's stuff's got hit with paraquat, so you keep away from it. There was always kind of a natural, I don't know, an organic siren that would go off. People would catch word. You can taste things when they're not right. It's got a weird aftertaste. Something ain't right about this. You gravitate away from it. It's like the same thing in, you go to a restaurant and you eat a bowl of clam chowder and it's not quite right. You eat a bite or two of it, you're like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is going to work. You get a sense of it. So these laws that are passed, the claim is that we're gonna super regulate everything. We're gonna make it to where everything's tested and everything's tracked from seed to sale, and everything's we're background checked and all of this. And the truth is, they create an industry that some people can support. There's people out there enough that's supporting the industry that have enough expendable income that they can pay the taxes that are involved in these things, and they can pay 3-4 times the market value of the product. And I say that because the true market value is what people are willing to sell it for, right?
That's why I'm so much for like the home grow your own, because honestly, you don't know what's in anything unless you're growing it yourself. And
there you go.
That's why one of the reasons I'm so for the homegrown and being able to grow your own.
That's the part that to me is it's so frustrating, because like in Kansas, I've been working with the legislature in Kansas for 2 years, or trying to work with them. And, their big headache is, well, we don't want this, we don't want people just going out there getting high. We just want only medical. And that's their reason for not wanting the home grow. And the truth is, if you grow your own, how many people, there's a number of people that would say, well, I'm going to grow it just to make money. Okay, well, cool. If everybody's growing it to make money, it drives the price down, and it makes it to where it's not worth growing it, if that's what your only point is, right? I don't know if you know anything about the hemp farms, but in Oregon, there are people who literally grew acres and acres and acres, like thousands or even millions of plants, right? And come fall, when it was time to harvest, they realized they didn't have any way to store it, or they didn't have any way to process it. And rather than cut down these mature, beautiful CBD plants, they just let them die in the farm.
Wow.
And they went back to growing alfalfa. And that's not a joke. There's a lot of people who have done that. They went out and they says, we're going to go make millions. We're going to go grow hemp, right? And well, that's great if you got a plan, right?
Right. Definitely would say start small. Like if you're planning on doing a business, you know what I mean? Start with the little acre and grow from that. You know what I mean? Because
learn your trade,
exactly. Start growing thousands of acres. You're not going to be able to do nothing with that.
I had somebody reach out to me through a mutual friend, and I have a CBD company, and I use hemp, but I don't grow it. Aside just from a hobby. And this guy had hit me up, and he literally, I don't know what country he was from, but he had a little bit of an accent, but he had a farm that was local to me within 30 miles of my place. And he says, I have, oh gosh, it was something like 20,000 pounds or tons. It was a lot, like ridiculous amount. Maybe it was 200,000 pounds, I think is what it was. Anyways, 100 tons of dried, processed, cured hemp flower. And he was trying to sell it. And I'm like, wow, like, how is it that you have that much and you don't have a way to sell it. Like, that's just crazy. Like, what do you think I'm going to do for you? You know, I mean, I couldn't buy it at $1 a pound. I mean, that's just, you know, what where would I put it? You know, it's a lot of material. So, you know, just because there's fears about things, and you know, whether it's hemp or indica or sativa or high CBD or high THC or high CBG, it really doesn't matter. It's the same plant, and the threat that it poses to the world is the same. You know, the hummingbird that you know drinks the nectar off of that plant doesn't know if it's CBD or THC. It's the same. It's the same. The spider mites that want to crawl up and suck its blood, they don't know any difference. It's the same. They're, you know, nature considers it all the same. So the big threat, really, it all comes down to money. It's all, you know, it's like to me, I look at it and I say, well, the cities and the counties and the states, they can't figure out how to harvest the money. They get more money trying to eradicate it. So they get money to snuff it out. They get money to put people in jail. They get money to seize assets. They get money to do
money
all
to let them out of jail, because then they're paying probation fees and all that bullshit.
exactly. It's literally a racket, you know. And you know, they try to charge us RICO, you know, for being racketeers, right? For having organized crime.
Oh
Well,
my
guess
God.
what? That's the racket.
Right.
It's really the racket. So, you know, it's kind of crazy. It's always been about education. It's always been about, you know, apparently in Kansas, they did finally get through the bill that the bill that they were working on 2 years ago. I testified in front of their special committee, and apparently and I've been and I sat and had lunch with the chairman of the special committee, which was a state senator, and apparently there was some impact that was made because of the work that I'd done behind the scenes with that. But we never know what's causing what, who's ringing in whose ear. But the truth is, what they're passing is nowhere near. They're not planning to allow people to grow their own. And you think to yourself, well, why wouldn't they want that? Right? I mean, there's not any, like, if everybody grew 10, 15, 100 plants, if every single taxpayer in America grew 100 plants, which is ridiculously a lot, right? For most people wouldn't be able to do it. Number one, I'd say 80% of those plants would die because they weren't taken care of right.
Yep.
But if you could, what would happen, right? Well, there'd be a lot of cheap weed on the market. There'd be a lot of lousy weed on the market because most people don't know how to grow very good. And there'd be some people that did it really well. And guess what? That would be worth more than the lousy stuff. Oh yeah,
Right.
just like it is. It wouldn't
Most
change.
people today are, sorry to say, I'm one of them, lazy. So they really don't want to go through all of that. They'd rather just go to a store and buy it and pay the extra money. So
Exactly.
they shouldn't be afraid of letting it be homegrown. Like, you're still going to make money off of it.
And you know, the funny thing about it's funny because I've been dealing with growers forever, and we always had a saying way back when was, you know, cannabis isn't addictive, even though now they're trying to make claims that there's these new, you know, withdrawal symptoms that they're trying to identify. But the truth is, we always said, you know, cannabis isn't addictive, but growing it is. And
Right.
there's really something truly therapeutic about growing that plant. And I think it's just because it grows fast. You know, it could be any plant that grows fast probably, but the way that it grows tall and grows branches, and you can literally, like, if it's growing healthy every day, you can see some progress. It's almost like growing kelp, you know, it just,
Right.
and it grows really fast, and it's rewarding, you know, and you know, if you're doing good and it's got a really healthy color and it's got new leaves, and then all of a sudden it starts to make that flower and it gets a smell to it. Like, how many plants, you know, people grow roses for that same reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
They grow roses and they're beautiful and they're healthy and they smell good, and they cut them and they share them, and they're, you know, there's value to that. Well, this is like that too. I mean, there's really a therapeutic value to just growing. Even if you just grew it and gave it away, there you'd get something from doing that. And yet, I don't know anybody that ever got harmed by growing a plant, like ever. Like, I mean, I guess you could trip and fall on a shovel or something, or step on it. You ever step on a steel rake and have the handle come up and whack you in the head? I mean, you know, you could probably do that, but short of that, I don't know. I just, it's all money and greed, and you know, I think
Yeah, zero deaths at all for cannabis. I've yet to hear that. And most people that say that my kid had all these hallucinations from it, they either got bad stuff or K2. Like, it was not cannabis. But all it is, when
absolutely.
K2 came out, they sold it like that.
Yep.
This is just like cannabis, you know what I mean? And it's legal. So
Yep.
you have all these kids, oh, cool. And so then their moms think, of course, they're doing cannabis or something. I don't believe that most of them are right.
I
And
think you're
then
right.
I guess you could get some people that are allergic to it, but I don't think they're going to die.
Well, there's you know, the extreme case of somebody who's highly sensitive to anything, right? I
Right.
mean, there's
Peanuts.
people who
Let's
can't.
make them illegal because everybody's allergic to them.
Exactly. A lot of people die from peanuts. People die from sunlight. I mean, they die from water. You can't make everything illegal. You know, you just walk on this earth. You take your chances, and it's up to you to pay attention to what you're sensitive to. It's always been my thinking about
Exactly.
it. You know, and little personal responsibility. And you know what? I wouldn't even have a problem if they were to up the penalties for actual crimes that were involved. Like, say somebody got injured because somebody was robbing a cannabis farm and shot somebody in the act of robbing their farm. Cool, put an extra penalty on that if you want, because it's not the cannabis that's the crime.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
shooting the guy. That's the part that should be extra wrong. I got no problem with that. You know,
Right.
you steal a guy's property, hey, make that extra wrong. I got no problem with that. But the actual crime being possessing, cultivating, transporting, manufacturing, whatever, all the crimes that they have, it still makes no sense to me. So I don't know. And then the other side of this whole thing is, if you have a business and let's say whatever, you make beach balls or whatever it is, okay, you make you manufacture some product, and you decide, hey, I want to go start a business, and you go and rent a little retail store or whatever, a little shop space, but it's zoned for, you know, just selling things. It's not zoned for industrial manufacturing. And you're in there and you got your little factory set up in what's supposed to be a store. And all of a sudden, you know, you're burning banana leaves or whatever it takes to make beach balls, and the smell offends the neighbor and the neighbor complains, and all of a sudden they're like, oh shoot, this guy's operating an illegal business, right? Because that's what you'd be. You'd be operating an illegal business because you're not in the right place. You don't have your shit in order. You don't have your paperwork right. Well, what do? Okay. They don't go to the court and say, we need a warrant. We got to go shut down this beach ball.
Exactly.
You know, they don't. They send the code enforcement guys over there and they knock on your door, or they'll send you a letter and say, hey, we think you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, and so you need to stop what you're doing and correct it. That's what they do. I've seen it. Okay. And if you don't correct it, you're going to face a fine penalty. Okay. And then if you don't do it and you don't pay the fine, then that gets worse and worse, and you're in collection and whatever, that you could get a lien on something or whatever. That's as bad as it would ever get, unless you start really defying them and you push them to take some kind of action. But generally, you would have to force their hand. It's almost like an HOA violation in a, you know, in a community. You painted your house purple, you don't get to paint your house purple. Well,
Right.
eventually they can do something about it, right? I mean, but no, we got a word, we got complaints from the neighbors that this guy is growing more plants than he's supposed to. So we go to court and we get a warrant and we bring in the SWAT team. we don't send a couple of, what do they call it? A welfare check. They don't send a couple of retired cops to come in and say, hey, just need to check in on here because we got a complaint, and it seems like you might be out of what we said we're supposed to do here. No.
Or send drones to your house to watch you for hours and hours, and then go to your house without a warrant
Exactly.
and act and put you in handcuffs and sit there and wait for the warrant to be that. They're so wrong at a lot of the stuff they do.
Well, and if this was just a once, where somebody told me there was this one story this one time, I would say, well, maybe they did something, right? I mean, because a lot of times you'll hear a story about something, then you get down to the real story and you're like, well, actually that guy was doing all kinds of crazy crap and they finally had it with it. But no, this is, 11 years.
Everywhere, everybody, like I'm hearing it from several people that this is happening to them. So
Exactly.
it's a regular thing they do, which is wrong. I mean, we have, rights, and they just step on them every which way they can.
It's an MO for them. I mean, that's just it's just the way they do it. And it's their,
And I mean, to put the RICO Act on somebody just because, I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. Like,
well, and that's kind of, again, the unintended consequences, or maybe intended. I don't know if they meant to do it all along, but when they passed these crime bills, back in the 80s, they sold it to us because, all of the cartels and the
your
cocaine.
safety.
Yeah. There's all these.
Same thing with
really-
protests right now. I'm so scared because they're going around using Black Lives Matter and Antifa and saying that protesters are now going to be labeled rioters and all this stuff, which would cause you to be able to be dragged into the prison with no warrant, with no nothing, and keep you as long as they want, because now you're what's the word they use? A terrorist or whatever.
Domestic terrorists, yeah.
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 And then, so the normal person like me holding a sign on the street now can be dragged into, and they can say I'm a terrorist because I'm trying to hold a sign for, and that's all we can do in Texas. We can't petition. So they're basically going to take everything. How are we going to change anything?
Well, I think we do it smart. We do it. One of the things that the great, civil rights leaders had in common was the message of the peaceful protest. And there's the true power in that, the Gandhis and the Martin Luther King Juniors. And even if it didn't always work out that way, it was always their message. It was always their message was to, you don't resist them. You don't fight fire with fire. You don't use violence ever. You use your voice. You use you make your presence known. That's the answer. And when enough people get together with the same message, they can't ignore it. They can't ignore it forever. And it's a hard road. It's difficult. But when you get some people together, it's easier to get more together. And if we can sharpen our message to let people know that it affects them, I think unfortunately most activists somehow had something happen to them or somebody that they love. I mean, most people don't just like get enlightened one day and say, I'm going to go change the world. There's a wrong out there. I'm just going to go change it because I feel like it. I think most people have been touched by that wrong in some way.
It takes passion to do what we do because we don't get paid for it. And it is a 24-hour job. You are constantly working, so if you don't have passion and there's not a reason you're doing what you're doing, you've got to have drive and passion, I think. It's
funny and it's along the same line, but it's now in the CBD side of things. So, the farm bill got passed and all of a sudden, people were starting CBD companies and people were growing hemp because they were able to. Then FDA comes in and they say, well, we don't want you to do this, that, or the other thing. So FDA says, well, I know that you're allowed to do this, but we're going to say, but you can't do that. And they categorized, a huge group of products to say, well, you can't put CBD in them. And then of course they have their, you can't make any claims about anything. So even if something, is historically a medicinal plant, like, like white willow bark, that's where aspirin came from. And
Doctors had it in their cases when they came to do home visits as a
yep,
medicine. It was one of the main things they carried in their kit.
tincture of
Not
cannabis.
medical.
Exactly. And it was actually one of the safest drugs that was in the pharmacopoeia. They also had tincture of cocaine and tincture of heroin or morphine. I mean, they had all of those things. And if you had a cough, they'd slug some morphine right down your throat and say, that'll stop it. And it
Truth
did.
is, they made all that illegal and then made a pill with all of that and said you can only get it from a pharmacy.
There you go.
But it's not medical.
So where I'm getting at with this is, I've been involved in this world forever, in a lot of different places, in the medical side of it, in the gray area, in the black area, and now supposedly in the legitimate area. I don't even know from day to day, depending on what FDA decides to do. But I have a lot of companies that I work with, and it's funny because, while I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm always talking about ending prohibition. I'm always, bringing up, oh, by the way, we're still finishing the job. Oh, by the way, there's these people that are just getting out of prison. By the way, there's people still in prison. Oh, by the way, while you're busy complaining because you can't say this or do that, there's people who, can't leave their room because they're prisoners, and you try to get people to get that. Well, just recently, FDA's come down and shut down more companies that are making medical claims or whatnot. And I get people coming to me again, just like, oh, what are we going to do? I'm concerned. I'm like, help me in prohibition. That's what you can do. I mean, I don't know how people are like, oh, I know, help you end prohibition. Yeah. Yes. Help me end prohibition, please. Because I can't do it by myself. And if I could, I'd have already done it.
And that's why I love Willow Creek Springs. I mean, there's a lot of CBD businesses out there, but you're trying to end this. You're not, you know what I mean, just making money off of it. You're using that money to help fight. If all these CBD businesses would do that, that would be
help us.
great. Like,
help
come
us.
on, we gotta make all these people right first before we start, taking the money on it.
If every cannabis business, whether it was a cannabis business, a hemp business, a CBD company, farmers, if everybody were to just say, you know what, let's just until this is over, donate 5% of our gross profit to the campaign to end prohibition. And we had a way that the activists could get together and unify. And the stipulation would be anybody that was involved had to unify to take this action, right? And what a lobby we would create. What an influence we could create out of that, and it would be an incentive for the little guys to get involved, because then all of a sudden they'd be connected to the big guys. And if the big guys got involved, we got numbers come out of that. So all of a sudden, there are organizations and companies, you got the Last Prisoner Project that came out of Steve D'Angelo's Harborside, which has donated huge amounts of money, resources, and caused this to happen on some level.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of great companies out there that are helping and doing a great job.
But it's still a drop in the bucket. If you take all those that are doing it, and then you look at all those that aren't doing it, and you're like, wow, if we could just slide that over to the other side just a little bit, man, what a difference it would make. Well, listen, it's 12 minutes till the end of the show, and we're supposed to have a guest on, but I'm not going to contain myself any longer because this guest isn't here, and I'm sure he's struggling, can't figure out how to get on, whatnot. He can come on next week and share the joy and excitement of what's happened. But here's what's going on. So you got this guy, Robin Anderson, who was on the show last week, and he told his story over the phone. And we told him, well, you know, we can put together, you know, a crowdfunding campaign. We're working with this new crowdfunding platform called Chip In, and we're figuring it out and getting some things going with that. And I said, you know, we got kind of the story written up, and you know, he told the story last week, and it's a good solid story. It's the kind of case that's really easy for people to get behind, because there wasn't any, you know, guns involved, or you know, all the things that people, I don't really care if there was, as long as they weren't used on somebody. I don't care what you have. You could have a cannon in your backyard, and who cares, you know, unless it's hurting somebody, it's just a piece of metal.
Exactly.
But he came on and told his story, and the gist of the story was, there's a guy who was a prosecutor in the county where he's at, who retired from the prosecutor's office and is willing to take his case for $2,500, which is about a quarter of the amount of money that most people,
Right.
most lawyers would charge to do pre-trial. I'm not talking about a trial, but this is just pre-trial, you know, motions and pleadings and preliminary hearing and the basics, collecting discovery. You want to go take a case to trial, you're usually looking at $25,000 to $50,000. And I know from personal experience, that's just the way it works. And that's our state cases, not fed. And this is fortunately a state case. So this guy, this attorney who's now working in the private sector as a defense counsel, said, you know, I can't do it pro bono, but I'm willing to do it for this amount. So we told Robin, you know, if you can come on and shoot a video of telling your story, we can create this platform and try to raise that money. You know, you never know. I mean, we raised some money, you know, for you, and you know, I know you guys donated the lion's share of it, but there were contributions that came in, and together
A lot.
it
We
made a
did it without
difference.
y'all.
It made a difference, a big difference. And I know Glenn Keeling, we did some crowdfunding for, we paid off some of his court fees. And, you know, historically, we're not an organization that's just a money raising organization, but when the right mix of need and the ability to tell the story and the people can come together, we have the capacity. We're a 501c3 federally recognized nonprofit in good standing. And that's what that gives us, is the ability to raise money and give you a tax write-off for it. So we're going along, and this guy shows up and shot the video, and we're like, wow, this is great. Now all we got to do is write it up and get it submitted. Well, we're sitting here doing that, and then Becca gets this idea, and you know, me, I'm the worst guy. They don't let me touch the money because I give it all away. I'm like, you know, to me, I don't think money. I just like, well, look what we can do. That's what I think about money. It's not a stack of paper or coins. It's what we can do. And you know, I'd be broke if I wasn't hustling and making money, because I'd give it all away. But at the end of the day, Becca said, why don't we sweeten the pot? Because a lot of times when you set up a crowdfunding, and you know, the strategy is get a few key people to donate, so you see some motion, and then everybody talk about it, and hopefully you get it going. You know, it like gets kind of a viral experience where people go like, oh yeah, look at that, they're doing it. Yeah, that's a good cause, I'll do it too. And you make it easy enough that they can do it. Well, Becca said, why don't we match the funds that come in? And I was like, whoa, all right. We've never done anything like that before, but that's good. You know, I mean, you think about it, our organization is strictly exists on donations. We've never, you know, we got one little grant. We're trying to get some grants right now, but we've never been funded by any big company. You know, I mean, little companies like mine have supported the organization forever, but we never had a big bankroll. We never had, you know, somebody drop $1 million in our lap and say, go help out with that. That's never happened. But over the years, you know, we've got a little something squirreled away, and it's like, well, why not? You know, so last night we had our weekly board meeting, and we voted to do that. So the big news is, for the first time ever in 11 years of doing fundraising, the Human Solution International is about to launch a crowdfunding campaign for Robin Anderson on the Chip In platform. And we're going to try to echo it on the Facebook platform too. But all donations are a tax write-off, and every donation is going to be doubled. So if you donate $10, we'll donate $10. Your total gift is $20. And so the key is, if we can raise $1,250 and the Human Solution matches that, this guy has not just an attorney, okay? What you got to realize is this attorney not only has, but helps write the playbook for the opposition. So he knows what they're going to do.
Right.
He knows the case. Like, you couldn't get a better lawyer than a prosecutor from the other side. So the fact that he's willing to take this case on, and he's confident he can beat it, this is really a slam dunk. This guy and his wife are disabled, mentally and physically disabled, and their lives have been flipped upside down by this. And geez, it's an opportunity for, you know, if everybody that's just listening to the show chipped in $5, we'd be there. It'd be over just like that.
Yep.
And so that's what we're asking. We generally aren't out there asking for money, but this is one of those things that I believe that a little bit will and can go a long way. And here's the kicker. This is me. I'm always thinking long game, right? So check this out. This attorney apparently is really excited about the fact that the organization is getting involved and willing to do this. So now we got his attention. Well, in the background, we're working on building a legal clinic. Oh, what do we need for a legal clinic? Some lawyers. Oh, this guy's a lawyer. I don't know. Maybe there's a place for this all to weave together.
Everything happens for a reason. I'm telling you, we were talking about finding a way to get grants the other day, and I just $1 million, and I can't wait to start working with her. She's going to be amazing. Yeah,
come Friday. But Friday's going to be a big day. We got a call with the grant writer and the Texas chapter call. So this is really good stuff. Also want to just throw it out there. Tom Corby apparently is dealing with walking pneumonia, and that's why he hadn't been on the show for the last couple of weeks. And I haven't talked to him, but I got word from one of his people that that's what's going on, and I guess he's doing all right. But hopefully it's not the COVID and the walking pneumonia all tied together, because that stuff just doesn't let go. And Tom's a big, strong guy, but he's, you know, getting up there a little long in the tooth, and I don't want to see anything happen. He's just such a good guy and such a lion heart of a man. And so just, if you're, you know, up for a prayer, a good thought, a visualization, put one out for old Tom Corby. We need him. I want him to see the finish line. Like, I feel like we're almost there. Like, I can almost see it, like coming up on a marathon. You're in mile 21 and you're on a straightaway off of a hill, and you're like, oh, there's all the people. I see it. It's like, it's almost there. So we still got the hard miles in front of us, but I really, really believe that we're on the edge of doing this. And I want to make sure that everybody who's been supportive and been part of this is going to be there to see it. So a couple minutes left. Candis, why don't you give us your final shot, and then Craig gets the last word, and we'll close this one down.
Well, I'm very excited about the prisoner project with Craig. I think maybe we can say something about that.
90.
Absolutely. Craig, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of what's brewing behind the scenes with our reentry project?
Well, we're hoping to help a lot of the former cannabis people that are re-entering society, helping them to get off the ground. Because somebody gets out of prison, like I did, you haven't bought underwear in my case, almost 19 years. I had no idea what size underwear I wear. You just, I mean, there's so many challenges that you meet up with the day you leave prison. So maybe we can reach out and help some of these people to get some insight. And we're going to work with our people that just got out recently. And one of them actually sent me a fun message. It was taken right outside of San Francisco, a billboard that says, you can marry your first cousin in more states than you can buy recreational marijuana. So
Yikes.
the industry is stepping up, and we're going to step up and reach out to these people that are re-entering society and have them speak about what they need and what people can help them with. And let's move forward as to, these people should have never been in prison in the first place.
Right.
Let's help their, reacclimation back into society.
Right, right. And like people don't understand, like you were in for 19 years, right? And back when you went in, you fill out an application on a piece of paper. Well, you're out now and all your job interviews and your applications are all on the computer. Like there's a lot of things that they just need a mentor for to help them get through that. So, I mean, I'm really excited for this. I think it's going to be a good thing.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, this was a great show. I appreciate y'all being here, and I'm looking forward to launching this campaign and shooting some video for the reentry project. And Friday coming up, and let's just keep it going, folks. I will see you all next week, if not sooner.